The best fathers by date of birth, or how to choose a man to start a family with. Some can change a diaper, others won't do it at all.
We dated, everything was great, we got married, and then everything just fell apart. Threes, they make the worst parents.
Who's the best match in a couple? Well, hello everyone. You're on the KEYTO channel. Greetings to everyone. I'm Alexey Kapustin here in the studio. Today, Alexey Kapustin will be solo, sharing his insights. Lusha, hi.
Hi.
Yes, you may have noticed Valera is missing. Valera is currently on a secret mission.
Valera went to Bali on vacation.
Really? And you're in Minsk?
Yeah, I came to Minsk. Honestly, I'm already tired of flying. I don't want all these trips and travels. I mean, I just don't like it. I just don't see the point of it all. I love working. I actually found some new information while studying numbers. I've developed some new material, so I have things to work on and keep myself busy. That's what I'm doing.
Lesha, today I want to ask you something. What's the topic of today's episode, friends, as you requested? Here it is. The best fathers by date of birth, or how to choose a man to start a family with. Today, we'll try to figure out which type of man is best suited for starting a family. Which one will be a real bro and which one will be a strict disciplinarian. And let's note right away that all fathers are different. That's important to understand. Some dads can change a diaper, some won't do that and will just take charge in other ways. Lesha, tell me, in your opinion, what should a real father be like?
Oh, that's a topic that's actually kind of vague, you know. Why is that? Because we don't take into account that when interacting with a woman, with the mother, so to speak, a third kind of energy is created. For example, the father has one kind of energy, the mother has another. When people come together, when they're in the same space, a third energy is created and they start acting based on that third energy. His own energy by itself basically stops working. And then add the baby who's just been born, and now there's actually a fourth energy that comes into play. So things will start happening in a very interesting way. We often see situations where people meet and have a good relationship. But as soon as the date of the marriage contract comes, that is, something happens and the relationship between the people changes. We see this a lot, right? It seemed like everything was fine while they were dating. But once they got married, everything just fell apart. Can you imagine? And why is that? Because every day, every month, and every year has its own energy. And it interacts with us, whether we want to believe it or not, it still happens. For example, we notice that when two people are talking and the third person joins, the topic of conversation changes. Things change for you as we might have been discussing something serious, but when a third person arrives, we start laughing. No one really pays attention to this, but in reality, the introduction of a third energy, that is the presence and energy of another person, produces this kind of effect. And that's why everything will be so vague. That is, in general, we know that there are people there who are 1s, 2s, 3s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s. But again, they're all different. Why is that? Because one person might be a 1 from the 28th, another from the 10th, and yet another 1 from the 19th. That is, each of them has their own psychological characteristics, their own psychotype, and so they will react differently to the same situation. So what is our task right now? It's not about, choosing who's the best father, but rather just discussing how different people respond to various life situations. That is, as far as children are concerned, right? So let's talk about the ones. What kind of father will a 1 be? He will be protective. He will try to give everything, absolutely everything. A king. A 1 is a king. Anyone, the 19th, the 25th. So he will do his utmost to allow the child as much as possible. But the mother, for example, is the opposite. That is, she will be very strict in the family. If she is unfulfilled, she will be very harsh, a kind of tyrant at home. But the father is not like that. On the contrary, the father will be easygoing. That is, he will be protective, yes, ready to give everything. As long as none of his rules are broken. Because a 1 is a leader, a person who constantly demands obedience. If a child obeys his father, then accordingly, he will patronize him in everything. A 2 is a person who is constantly doubting, possessing feminine energy. And a 2 is more above, will be caring, he will be overprotective, he will try to take care of everything. These are the soft fathers, right? 3s, they are the worst parents. Well, bad in what sense? It doesn't mean that they're going to do something bad, no. They are the coldest in relationships. That is, they pay the least attention to what the child needs or wants. In other words, they live more inside themselves. This applies to all of them, especially 3s. For example, with 21, there's a 2 in there. This is also a 3, but the 2 will get involved in the child's wishes, provided that the father has the final say. Because when the energy consists of 2 numbers, or rather when there are 2 energies in the consciousness, 2 and 1, as in 21, for example, first 1 plays out first and the second. 31st, yes, is the same thing. Or with the 18th first, the first energy plays out, then the second. And that's why 3s tend to be colder parents, right? 4s, on the other hand, are more the type who give. We know that 4s always give, but they serve. They are more like servants, the kind who will do as much as possible, who will serve, grumble, mutter as they go, but still keep giving. 5s are people of communication. That is, they are quite sensitive and easily offended. but very sociable. And that's why they are actually the most reasonable, and at the same time, they will always try to look at things rationally. They themselves were very capricious children when they were 5s. They were extremely capricious, the most capricious children you could ever meet among all the numbers. But as parents, they will engage in communication, they will constantly travel with their child. In other words, they don't have thoughts like, how can you take such a small child? He's still so little. No, they just take the child with them and off they go.
Action of go.
That's it. The moment something's happening, they immediately get the child involved and go along. That's just how they are. They will broaden the child's mind from an early age. 6s are pleasure seekers, they're gentle and calm. So they too will be parents who are supposedly not strict. 7s are sensitive, they will fuss and care a lot. By the way, with 7s and 8s, these are the only parents who will worry a lot about their children. And the 8 will control them, making sure they don't slip up somewhere or do something wrong, constantly keeping everything under control, which in fact will hinder the child's development. Because a child needs to try different things from an early age to stumble somewhere, maybe put something in their mouth that they shouldn't in order to gain experience. But the 8 will be overprotective, and the 7 will worry internally because they're sensitive. They panic right away, you know? Then there are the 9s left. 9s are already like warriors. These are very tough guys. They serve, they will try to help, but they are pretty tough characters on their own. They believe we've already talked about how the 9 is, I'm the best. So give them recognition. That's why in relationships with such a parent, I mean, a 9 will also protect and look after you, but at the same time, they're quite tough and very direct.
And in terms of consciousness and realization, for example, are there any distinctive features?
You probably meant in their mission. Yes. Realization is the area through which your actions should be directed. And mission is what a person needs to develop. So for example, you come in and your realization is 9, realization through helping, serving, and leading towards something. Yes, taking your realization into account. If it's 5, then it's about expansion, about creating a show. You help create a show. A mission of 9 helps to create a show. So 5 is realization. And realization is like this, a person is conscious, a person wants something. So your birthday is what you want. In other words, it's your desires, your wishes, and actions are what you need to learn to do for what purpose? In order to, well, that is, we learn by gaining experience in our consciousness, by observing, discovering, and communicating. We see, hear, and understand, accumulating experience, and then this experience turns into action. So everyone has their own actions, their own mission. For example, mission 1 is for management, for instance. 2 is for partnership, relationships, and so on and so forth. That is, every person has their own mission, and it is meant for developing the right actions. That is, it's important to understand this also because a huge number of people, in fact, do not fulfill their mission at all. They do work they don't like, work they're not meant for. And that's why their results are poor and things don't go well for them. And if you want to find out your mission, follow the link in the description and come to us. Ask the manager any questions you have. We'll do an analysis, show you, tell you, and explain which direction is best for you to develop in. And then taking this into account, first of all, when we understand our own path, we become happy. Why is that? Because we're doing work that doesn't stress us out, work that we actually enjoy. Secondly, we're always successful in it because, well, you just can't help but grow and dive deeper into a process that you actually like, right? In other words, you immerse yourself in what you enjoy. As a result, you become super cool and successful in that area. Accordingly, then there's also fulfillment. That is, we tie these actions, this mission to fulfillment, and in this way, we achieve the fastest possible results, and everyone is happy because of it. You're happy, the people around you are happy, everyone is enjoying it.
Yes. Listen, I was also thinking children come into our lives at a certain stage, a more adult conscious stage. And probably in most cases, a person's mission is activated at that age.
No, there's no such thing as a mission being activated. That is, if you understand your actions are correct, then you use them well, you activate them. Besides just having a mission, you also need to reveal it, to unpack it. There are cycles of development, meaning each energy unfolds. The same goes for drinking coffee. You have to put the coffee in the machine or pour it in. You have to turn it on. You have to do this, do that, and so on. In other words, you need to take certain steps in order to drink that coffee. It's exactly the same with energies. For it to fully unfold, you need to realize and understand the sequence of actions and then carry them out. Then you reveal yourself to the fullest. It's the same in everything. In achieving goals, in any kind of work, in everything. If you don't have knowledge about a certain process, you might be able to start it, but you'll just be scratching the surface. At some point, you'll just stop. It's the same here. If you understand the whole path, then you just methodically follow the steps that are already laid out for you. You don't need to rack your brain. You just need to understand what actions are required and carry them out accordingly.
Super. Can you, as a wrap-up for the episode, make a kind of selection for me? So who is the best match in a couple? For example, let's take a man, a father. Yes, let's say a 1.
Yes.
And what kind of woman would be...
For a 1, for a family, a 2 is best, of course. A 2 will take care of the family. She's a good executor. And a 2, she doesn't doubt, she won't contradict the 1 or insist on her own way. And the 1 will always make the decisions himself. And together they form a 3. 3 is always very consciousness, 3 is calculation and long-term relationships. For a 2, a 9 would probably be the best match. But that's if the woman is a 9 and the man is a 2. The thing is, a 9 man will destroy a 2 woman if there is no awareness. That's it. Giving a 2 or 4 means 2 paired energies. So they well, that forms a 6, but a 1 also suits a 2. So 1 and 2, 2 and 1. A 3 matches with a 3 or an 8, a 4 matches with the 7, right? Well, that's if, let's say, we want to maximize...
Maximize?
So that the consciousness can enjoy itself. In other words, we won't go into the details here because right now we're only talking about consciousness. Because if we take the entire date, it's enormous. And there's a lot of information that needs to be considered. If we're talking about letting the consciousness enjoy itself, then for a 3, we give it either a 3 or an 8. For a 4, we give a 7, then they want relationships, right? Or we can supposedly give an 8 to a 4 as well, which will also result in a long-term relationship. Then for a 5, we give a 6 or a 1. For a 7, we give a 4 or an 8 because a 7 and an 8 have a great relationship. And with a 4, they also have a good relationship. They even have sex on the first day. Between a 4 and a 7.
Attention.
Pay attention. Yes, that's how their energy works. They immediately want to be together. They're together from the very first days.
Check it out. Don't write your results in the comments, but do check.
Yes. Then for an 8, they need a 7 or a 3. But very often we've noticed that 5s are drawn to 8s.
I see.
So a 9 needs a 6 or a 2 because, well, a 9 is emotional and a 6 is calm. So the 6 will smooth things out. A 6 doesn't finish things, but a 9 does. That's why they complement each other.
Wow, cool.
But here we're only talking about pure energies, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If we start considering the 11th, 12th, 13th or 25th, the story is a bit different there. That is, the combinations will change, taking into account that there are 2 energies interacting. So, for example, the consciousness starts out working with 1 energy and then, say, finishes the meeting with the second one, right? You when were you born?
Jan 5, 2000.
You see, you're a pure 5 and I'm a pure 8. And for example, someone who was born, say, on the 12th, at first they enter relationships as a 1, that is, as a leader. If they're accepted as a leader, then they start to shift to a 2 and build partnerships. They become softer. And in the same way, that's what both they and their partner need, so that at first there's a 2, so the mind is uncertain if they're a 1. And then the second energy is tougher to dispel those 2 doubts. So it's a bit of a different story there. But if anyone's interested, just reach out and we'll explain.
Super, great information. Can you sum it all up, the cherry on top about the zeros, the energies of the 10th, 20th, 30th?
Well, these are the most active people. They have a lot of energy. Yes, fatherly men. They're sociable, cheerful, and positive. That's it. They do have some personal issues, like not finishing what they start, because 0 resets things and makes them switch from one topic to another. But as fathers, they're caring and they're generally more active. But again, when it comes to zeros, we only have 10, 20, and 30. 10 means good communication, someone who's active, quick, and always on the move. 20 is more about relationships, about family. And 30 has the craziest energy. That's why there's also coldness in 30, meaning in life for themselves, and an excess of energy. But they're caring too. I mean, if they've developed themselves, they're caring. You can't say anything bad about them.
Yes, the main thing is self-development, harmony, and understanding.
Absolutely, yes. When there's understanding and growth, then all people are good, all minds are stable and harmonious, and then there's no destruction at all.
Friends, thank you for watching this episode. Subscribe to the channel and give us a like. If you enjoyed the information, thank Alexey in the comments or ask your own questions. Maybe your questions will be assigned yes. A reason for us to cover them in the next episode. That's all, Lesha. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. See you all.
Bye, everyone.